Welcome to Bright Spot Alumni, brought to you by Rehabilis Tribe, exclusively produced by Windmill Wellness Ranch. Dominic Leone is your host. I'm John Jarrett. I'm the show's engineer. Dom, take it away.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bright Spot Alumni. Special guest today is Scott. Why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Scott, you're a alumni of Windmill Wellness Ranch, huh?
I am.
How long ago did you come here?
I showed up here on Halloween morning in 2017.
Halloween morning.
Yeah, I didn't even make it through Halloween.
On drugs, I would have been scared of Halloween too. So that must mean you have over a year sober now, right?
I do.
You do? So your sobriety date is Halloween.
I count my sobriety date as November 1st because let's just say Halloween coming in, I probably wasn't really sober.
That's awesome. How long did you stay here?
I was here just under 45 days.
Just under 45 days. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we get to ask you a little bit about your story and what you kind of gone through. I'd like to start with maybe finding out kind of how you grew up a little bit. Would you like to tell us what it was like growing up as a child?
Yeah, I mean, you know, unlike some people I talk to, I had a fairly normal childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my parents have been together since high school.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I've had that steady family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really nothing crazy. I've got one sister. She's great. Got lots of family all over the country.
Yeah.
The big thing in my childhood that may have been a little different from a lot of people, but not everybody, is we traveled a lot. I mean, I can remember growing up that I don't think I ever lived in any one spot for more than 3 years.
Wow.
Until I was out of high school.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was constantly getting to a new place, making new friends,
Mm-hmm.
meeting new people, and moving on and moving forward.
Yeah.
So, a lot of change, but you know, not necessarily a bad change.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, like moving around a lot as a child, how do you think that may have affected you as a child?
You know, I've got some long-term relationships with people that I've known for many years, because I did happen to move back to some of the same places.
Yeah.
So I've got some people that I've literally been friends with since like first or second grade.
Wow.
That I'm still friends with today.
That's cool.
But you know, some of those points in my life, there's areas of the country that I lived in, other than being a Facebook friend with somebody,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to these people in 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a little unusual there, but maybe not. I mean, I've
got friends that I've been friends with for a long time. We don't, usually see each other, but it's good to have those people there to kind of know what's going on, What was the reasoning for moving so much?
my father was in the oil business. So lots of back and forth between the Chicago area and the Houston area growing up.
Cool. So did you live in either one place, or was it all over the country?
Pretty much those two places.
Yeah.
You know, born in Louisville, Kentucky, so lots of family around that area. Lived a couple other places, but, you know, a lot of back and forth between Houston and Chicago.
Cool. Let me ask you, does addiction run in your family?
It does not.
No. So you were
I was the trailblazer.
the trailblazer. I've never heard of it that way. So just kind of like out of the woodwork, you came out and were like, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we put a concrete wall in front of that trail so nobody tries to follow behind me.
Yeah. Did you guys grow up religious or anything like that?
I did. Grew up Methodist. Went to church often. Kind of fell away from church and the whole God thing for a while in high school, and you know, went back and forth. I mean, at one point in my adult life, you know, I was very involved with the church. I was on the board of trustees.
Yeah.
And you know, very involved in the church and church activities.
Awesome. What kind of pushed you away from stepping out of that, not being so close with the church anymore, stuff like that?
You know, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just one day it was kind of like, maybe I'm not all about this God thing,
Mhm.
and just kind of fell away from it. Stopped going to service, and parents like, you need to go to church. I'm like, no, I'd rather sleep.
Right, right. Yeah. What made you get back into it as an adult?
Uh, Probably the first time I got sober.
Okay.
Got very involved with the church
Mhm.
as an adult, and it was a good thing.
Cool. Cool. Um, Now, can I ask what kind of addict you are?
I'm an addict of the garden variety, man.
Oh, so it don't matter.
Kind of didn't matter what it was.
Right on. Okay. So what was the first, like when you were a kid, did you drink first? Did you smoke weed first?
I drank first when I
Mhm.
was a kid.
How old were you?
I was probably 16.
16.
Before I ever had a beer.
Yeah. Did that like set everything off, or did it kind of take a little while?
It took a little while. I mean, I liked the effect,
Mm-hmm.
but, as a 16-year-old, it wasn't necessarily easy to get beer.
Yeah.
And,
You're right.
Just when it happened, but I didn't start drinking a lot until my freshman year of college.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you stating that it wasn't easy to get at 16. I think that's why we see like a lot of young people in the programs that we have around here coming in as drug addicts and stuff like that, because it's so much easier to call a drug dealer than it is to go and try and get beer legally or something like that.
Yeah, the little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
The drug dealer will deliver to your house.
Exactly. Right. Or
Yeah.
you can meet them in an alley or wherever. Yeah, they definitely don't care. They're already breaking the law. So
Absolutely.
But so in your freshman year at college, did you start drinking? Basically every weekend, every day. What was it like? Transitioning into getting in from alcohol to drugs and stuff like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, my freshman year of college, I started drinking probably not every day,
Mm-hmm.
but Thursday through Sunday. And, maybe a little Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on the week.
Yeah.
Depending on what was going on. But Thursday nights were kind of the big going out night. And
Yeah.
we'd all go out, and, it'd be Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night.
Yeah.
So, I can remember the first time that I probably realized that drinking was becoming an issue for me.
What was that?
Is I was at University of Kentucky, and we'd gone a town over to another college campus over by Eastern Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and I can remember coming back to Lexington and kind of vague memories of being half passed out in a parking lot and seeing nothing but flashing lights and shiny black shoes all around me. So that was the first time that I realized that, I'm probably drinking a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop me.
Yeah, no, it usually doesn't. That's cool. That's cool. So after drinking, was it weed? Was it any other substance after that, or did it?
It was just drinking for a long time.
Drink
And
for a long
I'd
time.
have periods where I'd drink, and then I'd have periods of just
Nothing. Yeah. What'd you go to college for?
For a variety of things, but University of Kentucky was probably not a great place for me because I didn't make it past my freshman year.
Oh, wow.
I ended up with a blood alcohol level much higher than my GPA, so the deans don't really like that. So
No, yeah.
I moved back home after that year,
Mhm.
and went to community college and just did some basics and
Yeah.
went back and forth. Frankly, that was back in '89, '90, and I didn't graduate college until 2005. So,
Ooh. Nice.
so took a little time to get through.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. What was it like moving back home after college? Did you meet any buddies? Get in any trouble or anything like that? Did you keep going with your alcohol?
Yeah. I came back home and really didn't drink a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go drink occasionally and go do something, but it wasn't wasn't a daily thing.
Mhm.
Living back at home with the parents and pretty pretty controlled environment after failing out of college my freshman year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So the years probably went on for you. And what you decide to do, for work, or kind of just keep yourself busy and stuff like that?
well, I worked in retail management for a while.
Mhm.
I started out after, kind of funny story, after my freshman year of college, I thought I was going to be a great sports photographer. Yeah, it was something I was always into, and
Yeah.
just kind of on a whim, I went to the old Astrodome and ended up trying to become an intern for them. And it was a great idea. And I ended up going to intern for a guy, showing up for my first day of an unpaid internship, and being given the job because they fired the guy I was supposed to work under.
Wow.
So at 18, 19 years old, all of a sudden I'm like supposed to be this great photographer. Man, I was clueless.
You're.
It's a lot of fun, but I was clueless.
Yeah. How long did that last?
That lasted the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you did a lot of photography stuff like that. Going on through all the years, between your 20 and 25s, kind of what went down in your life?
Well, I went back to college and so went to Sam Houston for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a photography major with a criminal justice minor.
Ah.
So, I had two distinctly different groups of friends, shall we say.
Yeah.
I had the straight-laced guys that, clean crew cuts, and they appeared to live their lives perfectly.
Yeah.
And then I had all my dope-smoking hippie friends. But I didn't do anything but drink.
Yeah.
And again, I drank a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it probably got to be, daily.
Daily. Still living with your parents at that time?
Now, at that time, I'm back out on my own.
Okay.
But seemed like when I was on my own and kind of out of my shell,
Mm-hmm.
I seemed to drink a lot more. I was able to
Yeah.
hold it together for a long time around family.
Right. You think that could have been maybe like fear keeping you sober for a little bit, or just not wanting to upset the parents? Or
A little bit of both.
Mhm.
Fear of what would happen to me, just, not get beat or anything, but just the whole
Disappointment.
economic insecurity and,
Yeah.
where am I going from here if I get kicked out here? Or
Yeah.
where do I go, man? I don't want to be living under the bridge.
Right. Right. Yeah. I have that. I used to have that idea too of being an alcoholic. Right. My dad would always tell me, "You're going to be an alcoholic. You're going to be an alcoholic." And man, I just was like, "Nope, not me. I'm not under a bridge or anything like that." And that was my justification for a long time. I could do whatever I want as long as I wasn't under a bridge or homeless. It eventually got to a little bit of homelessness, though. So criminal justice minor, you said, or
Yeah, I
major?
had a criminal justice minor and a photography major.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't finish school at Sam Houston either.
Okay.
But, still, blood alcohol level was probably pretty close to the GPA there.
That's good. And so from 25 to 30, what did your life kind of look like?
Just not a whole lot of anything. I drink, party with friends, have a good time, go to school, try and hold down some different jobs.
Yeah. And mainly doing photography still at the time?
I did photography, but I also worked at a video store.
Okay.
Yes, for those of you.
Like a Blockbuster.
They had like these things called video stores where you actually had to go rent movies instead of just clicking a button on Netflix and getting what you wanted.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, you don't catch me as a photographer guy. You know that? That's cool, though. That's
Never
cool.
know the secrets in somebody's past.
I know. So you lived a pretty normal life up until 30, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of people nowadays, the obsession and the mental obsession phenomena craving usually gets set off before then, and I think it's because drugs and the chemical change that they've taken. It's become more dangerous and more unhealthy to the body, of course. And you still said you weren't doing anything at 30, but even alcohol becomes it's become more of like a social norm, right? Everyone
Yeah, I mean,
drinks.
I drank a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that I wasn't happy when I wasn't drinking,
Right.
you know. So when I was sober or dry, things were pretty miserable in my life.
Yeah.
You know, everything on the outside still looked pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
but I just felt like crap.
Like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type deal.
Exactly.
Alcohol's a serum. Yeah.
Exactly.
Liquid courage, some people call it.
Mm-hmm.
Takes off that.
Yeah, I was a pretty shy guy until you got a couple drinks in me. And
Yeah.
Then I was the life of the party, whether you wanted me to be or not.
Exactly. Yeah. I couldn't dance until I had a couple drinks. I shouldn't.
I still
say-
can't dance.
Yeah,
so, I
exactly.
mean,
You put a couple drinks into me, I can't say.
I may think I can dance.
Exactly. I will dance with a couple drinks. I'm not saying I dance good. That's good. That's good. So from 30 to 35, we're going through like 5-year increments.
Yeah, about that time I had I'd gotten married.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we'll back up just a little bit because just before that, I actually took the career track of going into law enforcement.
Uh-oh. Right. That's
So,
what I was waiting
yep.
for.
Yeah, went to the police academy
Mhm.
and decided I'm going to be the popo.
Nice. How old were you when you decided to go into the academy?
That must have been mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Wow. So 25-ish?
Yeah, 25-ish.
Yeah.
So
So
24, 25-ish.
that's a pretty big change because they're pretty strict at the police academy, huh?
The police academy is really strict.
Yeah, and so
yeah, I went to the police academy. I was the class president.
Mhm.
I was the valedictorian of the academy.
yeah,
I excelled well in the academy.
it's awesome.
Not so much on the physical fitness side.
Yeah, but you speak about like leaving college a few times, and drinking and your blood alcohol level being higher than your GPA and stuff. Well, it must have been a big change to go into the police academy and kind of have to straighten up and be on time, because I know you have to be on time for the police academy.
Very much on time, shoes shined,
Yeah.
everything straight and squared away.
Right.
I mean, kind of perfection and a lot of structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was it like transitioning into that? Was it easy for you?
I felt like there wasn't a choice.
Right.
I mean, that's what I was doing, so I just did it.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you that we drank after academy too. But you just had to make sure you were able to be back up the next morning and,
Right.
back at it again.
Cool. How long did it take you to graduate from the academy?
That was a 4-month program, so
4 months.
so pretty quick.
And then how long to get a job with a
Within 24 hours of taking my state exam, I was
Wow.
working as a police officer.
Wow. Yeah, it's not that easy anymore to graduate from the police academy and get a job with a police, a precinct,
Yep.
It's become a lot harder. So that's awesome. So you were 26 and you were a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And from 26 to 30, that's what you did. Drank, police. So I guess you didn't really have a choice to, step into the field of drugs, right? Because as a police officer, I don't know, you must not be able to do that sort of thing.
Well, you shouldn't be able to do that sort of
Right,
thing.
right. But I guess don't they drug test you guys and stuff like that, or is it not so much certain that?
Drug tested upon hire, and they say they do random, but
Mhm.
My experience, there wasn't a whole lot of random testing for anything going on.
Cool. So what was your first interaction with something other than alcohol?
My first interaction was I was going through a divorce, and I'd met what was soon to be my second wife,
Oh,
and
interesting. What happened to the first one? Let's start there.
just a divorce.
How long did it last?
Less than a year.
Less than a year. Was that due to just characteristic differences, or maybe alcohol? Or?
We were too different. There were a lot of different things going on. It didn't work out. Don't
Yeah.
have anything bad to say about her. It just, sometimes it does not work out.
Right.
Probably had decided to get married too early, and
Yeah. Do you think that could come from maybe like a alcoholic, like the alcoholic brain?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wanting to
Just
fill that
wanting
void.
something to fill that void.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't alcohol, well, maybe it was just women.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, so how long after divorce did you end up almost meeting your second wife?
Well, let's just say I met my soon-to-be second wife before I was divorced from my first.
Oh man, good story. Cool. All right, and so that's around the time that you tried something other than alcohol.
It was.
Yeah. What was that?
Tried marijuana.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gateway drug.
Exactly. How old were you? 30, 31?
That's probably 30, 31.
30,
Yeah,
31?
right around there.
Man, trying marijuana at 31 years old. Phew. That's different. You know, a lot of people, they try it a lot earlier. You know, usually you hit the age of 18. Or you smoked marijuana before the age of 18 nowadays, you know?
Yeah, just never did it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. And so how long until you and that wife got married?
Oh, we were married.
How long did you guys wait to get married?
Let's just say we were married about a year and a month after I was married to my first wife.
So from the time you married,
from the time I married my first wife to the time I married my second wife. I married my first wife in June of one year, and I married my second wife in July of the following year.
So you got a divorce and they got married.
Yeah.
Alcoholic tendencies. Huh?
Absolutely.
Filling that void.
More is never enough.
That's awesome. You're like, hey, you're gonna be my next mistake.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So was it her that influenced you to try the marijuana, or was it just maybe friends or a bad time?
It was her that influenced it, but I mean, it wasn't her fault.
Oh, definitely not. Nobody makes us do anything.
It's not. You know, I did it on my own.
Right. In the police force.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so you're doing that.
But I did that one time, and that was it.
You've never smoked marijuana other than one time?
But I did it one time then, and that was it.
Cool.
And it was years before I did anything again.
Wow, so you just went years just drinking.
Yeah.
Just carried on.
Just drinking.
Yeah. How was the home life, you know, with just alcohol, you know? I'm sure she got to experience you sober, and you told me that you weren't too happy when you weren't drinking. So
she didn't get to experience me sober a whole lot, but she wasn't sober a whole lot either. So yeah, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out as you can imagine. Though.
Yeah, yeah. So a few years go by. You're just in the task force now. Have you transitioned from a police officer?
A few years go by, and I'm just still your normal, average, everyday police officer.
Mm-hmm. Alcoholic police officer.
Alcoholic police officer. But you know, the funny part about that, and I mean, is we talk about drinking. You know, there's a lot of people that are just hard drinkers.
Yeah.
And take it or leave it.
Well, I did that my last relapse. I was just a hard drinker.
Yeah.
I didn't get into anything. I smoked some weed, but
you know. Just a hard drinker, maybe not an alcoholic, but you know, I can tell you for a long time, I could almost tell you what night of the week it was after work by what bar we were at, and we went out as a group.
Wow.
So I mean, there's a bunch of cops out drinking.
Yeah. Cool.
And not everybody drinking, but I mean, it was just kind of our way. A lot of times we called it choir practice. You know, it was a way to get out and kind of talk and vent and work through what may have happened during that day or what didn't happen, and just kind of BS.
Well, being a police officer, I mean, can probably be pretty traumatic sometimes. You know, just with the stuff that you guys have to deal with. You know, violent people. Drugs, alcohol, you know, shooting.
Yeah, it gives you a really wicked bad sense of humor.
I bet. But to be able to, you know, it sounds pretty normal just to go out with the police officers and just drink and get some of that stuff off your chest, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like my buddy's my counselor now.
Normal to most.
Yeah,
you know.
Right.
And I mean, part of it was we could go out and talk and BS about things that, frankly, if I was BSing with you about the same thing, you would think I was batshit crazy.
Well, you don't know how crazy I am.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, we'd laugh and joke over things that were morbid.
Yeah.
But it was our way of coping with things that happened during the day.
Yeah. Definitely understand that. I won't ask you to demonstrate because maybe we got some viewer discretion, but
Yeah, absolutely.
so so just normal alcoholic life, and you got a wife and stuff like that. So I know from you, you transitioned into a different type of task force, right?
I did not.
You didn't.
No.
You were just a police officer?
No, just a police officer.
Oh.
I worked patrol. I'd worked in jails. I'd worked warrants.
Cool.
I was a chief deputy for an agency at one time.
Awesome.
So
Yeah. How long did it go and take until you transitioned into something other than marijuana?
It probably took till after I got divorced from the second wife, and started dating a whole lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dating this one girl, and it just so happened that she presented it one evening, and with another group of people, and it was almost like, don't want to blame anything else because again, this is me and not somebody else.
Right.
But when you have that and it's put right up to your nose,
Mm-hmm. You gotta take a breath.
I could have
eventually.
said no, but I just did it.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people get into things that they shouldn't nowadays, like maybe coke or even meth, pills, Molly, stuff like that. Just because it's the new norm, right? Like normal people, they go out and nowadays, and you take a Molly before you go to the concert, or you take some acid before you go to a concert, and it's the way you fit in. And so not to feel like an outcast or things like that, you kind of just do it, and it's not that we know that we have the alcoholic or addiction gene in our bodies, so we don't do it thinking about the consequences or risks of becoming an addict and throwing our whole lives down the drain. But it kind of just happens, and before we know it, it's too late.
Yeah. And once I did that first substance,
Mm-hmm.
other than marijuana, it's kind of like it was on.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. I liked the effect.
Booger sugar.
Yeah.
It's like a stimulant.
Yeah, I like that effect.
Yeah. A lot of people do. It's well, I would say you're right. How tall are you?
6'3".
So, I was gonna say it makes you feel about 6 foot, but you're already 6 foot. So
Yeah,
maybe
I'm already
7
6 foot. Yeah, 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
10 foot tall and bulletproof, right? And I think being a police officer, to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof probably feels pretty damn good. Can run forever. You start to get in shape a little bit, and you feel like you can take anything on.
It definitely took the pounds off.
Yeah, it definitely does. You don't feel like you don't really need to
I
eat.
didn't eat a whole lot. I think there was a time where I existed on McDonald's cheeseburgers and their mango pineapple smoothies. I mean, that was, and maybe only a few of those a week.
Yeah. And so
Not the healthiest.
no, but it worked. So that went down, and that was and you were just dating, you said, right?
And I was just dating at that time.
Yeah.
And, then ended up meeting my third wife.
Mm.
And we met using.
Alcoholic tendencies?
Definitely alcoholic tendencies. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and that just, we went through that for many, for a short period of time, and she got pregnant, and we both got clean. Had my son, stayed clean for a couple years. Then it got brought up and into our lives again, and just got progressively worse and worse.
Yeah. So are we talking about cocaine, methamphetamines?
More is never enough.
More is never enough.
More is never enough. Primarily, the DOC would have been cocaine.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
But meth was cheaper.
It was.
And lasted longer. Right?
So it was just kind of what was there.
Kind of what was there.
Yeah. Totally. Cool. And so you guys went through,
So we went through a period like that where we, both were pretty bad off. And, at this point, I was involved in a shooting while I was out on training. And, in that shooting, I was in a hotel room and somebody tried to break in and ended up shooting at them and next thing I know, I've called the local agency, and they all show up, and I call call an attorney,
Yep.
because I was always taught you involved in something like that, go ahead and get an attorney out there. And don't talk much until you get there. And so by the end of that, they had arrested me for discharging a firearm in the city limits.
Wow.
So I got to spend a night behind bars instead on the other end of the bars, and that was really the end of my law enforcement career
Yeah.
fairly rapidly.
Wow. Well, I mean, somebody tried to break in, and I guess the next best thing for a human to do is to try and defend themselves, right?
Absolutely, but when you're drunk and high, it's probably not the wisest decision at the same time.
Right. So they drug tested
And
you.
so they asked me to take a drug test,
Mhm.
and I just refused.
Right.
And so, drugging on for, about a month and a half before I was unemployed. But that was really the end of my law enforcement career. And that probably, I had a lot of resentments over that for a
Yeah,
long time.
I bet.
But at the end of the day, man, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened. Because I'd probably be dead by now if I was still
doing
out there
what you were
that.
doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And through that, the funny part of the story is I got sober.
Yeah.
My wife actually went to rehab at that time
Mhm.
and got sober. She was able to stay sober a couple years, and I stayed sober for almost 7.
Okay.
And then just it popped up and got brought up again, and that time it did not take long to go down that rabbit hole again to worse than it ever was the first time.
Right. We usually pick up right where we left off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went down that rabbit hole really, really fast.
How did you stay sober for the 7 years? What were some of the things that you did?
I went to some different counseling, and if we can talk about specific programs, but I went to a family type program.
Okay.
In support of my wife, because I'm not an alcoholic, right? I'm the one that's been involved in the shooting while I was drunk and high, and she goes to rehab. So obviously she had the problem, not me.
Yeah.
It wasn't a me problem, because man, I'm me. I couldn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Couldn't possibly be anything to do with me.
Yeah.
But I stayed sober, but I was miserable. I mean, literally just miserable, irritable, restless, discontent. You look in a dictionary and it was my picture.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Well, I get it. I think one of the biggest things that we alcoholics and addicts suffer from is delusion.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely delusional because it was always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. Or
It
denial.
wasn't my fault, wasn't my problem. It was always
Yeah.
somebody else's fault or
So
problem.
we play that victim
Oh, yeah.
victim role really
Abs-
easily.
Absolutely.
Not my fault. Not my fault. Poor
Not
me.
my fault.
Poor me.
If it wasn't for her, none of this would have ever happened.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
that was a lot to where I was. And then, you can only white knuckle it for so long.
Right.
And I white knuckled it a long time. And ask me how I lasted that long, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
But I did.
Yeah.
And
7 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It is a long time.
And so came back into it, and like I said, kind of went down with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And went down hard and fast, and got to a point where, let's just say Halloween morning, I was not sure where I was going. I was not sure what was going to happen, but I knew I was done and something had to change.
Yeah, for sure.
And I called an old friend that showed up and brought me here to the ranch.
Glad you came.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to the federal pen, jail, an insane asylum. I had no idea where I was coming. Heck, when I was coming here, I still wasn't sure where I was coming.
Right. Right.
And got here, and one of the best things that's ever happened in my life.
Awesome. What was your stay like for those 45 days that you were here. I mean, so coming into it, what was your thought process coming into rehab?
Oh man, my thought process coming into rehab is, I'm gonna get clean and sober. Then my wife, she's gonna get clean and sober. We'll take turns.
Yeah.
She'll get clean and sober. She'll get it figured out, and it'll all be perfect, man.
Yeah.
I had this whole plan in my head that I had it all planned out.
Right.
I mean, really, and I mean, you can probably remember, you were here. First couple weeks I was here, I was convinced that, man, I just need to lay off that hard stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was my problem. But I was still going to be able to drink. I'd be able to have my bourbon because I could drink a little bit of bourbon and put it down. It wasn't a big deal. It was the other stuff that caused the problem.
So when did your thought process switch from thinking, hey, I can drink, I just don't have to do the stimulants or anything like that, to full abstinence, 100% abstinence? When did that happen?
It's sometime while I was here, things just started to click.
Yeah.
I'd been around it a little bit before, and I started to listen and pay attention.
Yeah.
And I started to get it and started to change.
Maybe
although 30 days in, I was still batshit crazy.
Yeah. You maybe think like maybe a little bit of fog lifted and stuff like that.
Little bit of fog lifted. Things,
Yeah.
I started to see things a little bit more clearly.
Right.
And could look back on things with an open mind, where I didn't have that before, where I always really wanted to blame somebody else for it. Now I was at the point where I was willing to accept the blame on myself, and I was pretty tough on myself about a lot of it.
Yeah. So let me ask you, if the things that you wanted to happen in treatment in your life happened, would you be grateful for the life you have today, or what if it turned out different?
Man, absolutely not. I mean, my life is completely different than anything I could have planned.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier. I mean, none of the stuff worked out the way I wanted it to work out. I mean, none of it.
Yeah.
But I'm happy.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, none of that worked out. Ended up divorced.
By third wife.
By third wife. Yeah, ended up divorced by third wife. And I thought, man, I'm not going to see my son. I've gone to rehab. She didn't go, so nobody knows. Everything's going to be fine.
Right.
For her. And I was like, okay. So it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And when I got out, not being able to see my son very much, and things had definitely changed. But I was still able to stay sober.
Yeah.
And even though life was kind of hitting me full force, I was still reasonably happy.
Right.
I had moments. I mean, life is not perfect. Life is still life. It hits us and gets messy.
Gets lifey.
Yeah, it definitely gets lifey.
Yeah.
So, after a couple months when our divorce was finalized, and my son was living with her, he made the decision that he wanted to come live with me.
Yeah, and you think maybe that maybe he saw a change in you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people talk about it all the time, that others see the change in you before you see the change in yourself.
Totally.
I wasn't seeing the changes as much as other people were.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest here. When I came here, man, nobody thought I was going to make it. Heck, I didn't think I was going to make it.
Right.
I was going to be one of those numbers that was either going to keep coming back 15, 16, 17 times to different rehabs, or I just wasn't going to make it. I was going to be one of the statistics.
Jails institutions are dead.
And somehow, I had that spiritual experience and things just clicked.
Yeah. Spiritual experience, huh? So must mean you have a higher power or a God of some sort.
Absolutely.
Right.
But my conception of God today is completely different than it was even when I was a trustee in church.
Right. And so what
I
is
feel
it like?
closer. I mean, I feel like God's inside of me, and it's it's not just the guy hanging up on the cross in the church that you talk about, and you make sure you're there for Easter and Christmas and all that. It's no longer building.
Right.
You know, I still like organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe in church. I still believe in that God. But I have a different feeling about what that God is, and that changes from time to time for me on what I feel. But I feel it's a caring, loving God. You know, that's my higher power.
Right.
You know, because if it was a punishing God and I got what I deserved, I would not be here today.
Definitely understand that.
We might be doing this podcast with some bars between us or something.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, man. God's doing for me what I can't do for myself, you know, and staying sober and stuff. So you've been able to stay sober for, you know, a little over a year now, and
a little over a year,
and I don't see you taking any steps backwards or wanting that to change.
No, absolutely not.
You know, so congratulations on that.
No,
but,
thank you. I appreciate it.
What are some of the things that you plan on doing to kind of keep up, you know, making sure that you're going to stay sober?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is, you know, just getting up in the morning, asking God to keep me sober another day, and when I go to bed at night, thanking God for being sober that day.
Awesome.
And, you know, remembering this is one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know,
24 hours.
I've got today.
Right.
You know, there's other people that are around that have more days added up than I do. But I have to remember the person in the room with the most sobriety that day is the person that woke up first that morning.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter if you've got 30 years, 40 years, 16 years. I mean, could be anything.
Yeah.
But we've got today, and if I don't do today what I did yesterday, and try and keep enriching my spiritual life, and just remember I don't have to pick up that drink.
Yeah.
It's not what I need to fill that void with.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, you know, I should be doing more than I did yesterday, because it's like a stay green and growing type deal.
Absolutely.
You know, so constantly staying open-minded to new things, or new lessons God's trying to teach me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, don't think when I say, you know, doing the same thing as yesterday, doing the same types of things.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to get up in the morning and have a regimented routine where I'm doing exactly this all day. Okay, at 9 a.m. I'm going to think about not drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, 9:30 I'm going to think about not drinking. Man, the beauty of this for me is I don't think about drinking.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
I
that
don't
obsession.
think about anything else. The obsession's been removed. You know, it just doesn't come up. You know, I've had things in this year where I've gone to parties and to meet friends and done it at a bar.
Yeah.
Never once considered picking up.
Good intentions,
had no reason to. But when that time was up, you know, I was there for good reason, and when that time was up,
time to go.
And, you know, people started getting a little cray-cray, I just excused myself and left.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really that easy.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And so, you know, that's kind of been a direct result of you, you know, serving that higher power that you've created, huh?
Absolutely.
And service work. Do you do any service work?
Yeah.
I know you do. I'm just asking.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little.
You know,
right.
just a little.
Yeah. And so
I have several guys that I work with.
Cool.
Several guys that have similar experiences, and several guys that, hey, they're just similar because we're the same.
Right. Right. So, if there's any newcomers trying to get sober now, or maybe they're newly sober now, and you could give them a little advice personally, what could you tell them?
Man, I'll tell you the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody is don't be too hard on yourself right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to get sober today, great. If you relapse, maybe that's part of your experience.
Right.
You know, don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep coming back.
Well, it's
You know,
part of our story.
Yeah, we don't all get it the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't all work out the way we planned. I mean, you may show up and go, okay, man, I'm gonna check in here on you know, Halloween morning, and unlike somebody I know that was going through the intake process and said, okay, just understand, I need to be out by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
now I realize how insane that was. But don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, literally, this is one day at a time, and it's progress, not perfection.
Right.
I don't do anything perfect, other than realize that, man, I'm an alcoholic and my life was unmanageable.
Right.
I mean, that's the only thing I have to remember.
Yeah.
Is that's where I have to be perfect. Everything else, man, I'm still a work in progress.
Right.
And some days are great. Man, some days are not so great. Sometimes I still get squirrely in the head. But I know where to go and what to do now.
Right.
And if you're at a treatment center or you're here at the ranch and you're just starting out, man, listen to those people around you. Maybe don't listen to the war stories of the other people that are here. Maybe listen to the people that are working here and have a little sobriety under their belt.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to steer you the wrong direction.
Right.
And all we can share is our experience with you. Hey, what works for me, man, it may not work for you.
Yeah. Multiple pathways to recovery.
Absolutely.
Multiple. Well, Scott, I appreciate you, and I congratulate you on your year of sobriety. I think it's one of the hardest milestones to get, is that first year, man, could just be treacherous, so appreciate you coming by and sharing part of your story with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Yeah.
Kind of great to be back at the ranch, man.
It's nice. I'm glad you came back, brother.
All right.
Appreciate you. Well, so we do have something else. John, you there?
I am.
So me and Scott here, we wanted to ask you, how many years sober have you been today?
Well, Tom, thanks for asking. I have 16 years of sobriety today.
16, man. That is incredible. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
16 years is a long time. I mean, that's over 10 years. A lot of people, statistics.
That's 6 years over 10 years, Tom.
That's 6 years over 10 years.
I mean,
I agree. The math works out.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have a hard time staying sober, 5, right?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of us fall off between that 1 and 5 year mark. How did you manage to stay sober for 16 years?
Well, it was a pretty long journey. I think the first time that I was told by some people that I might have a problem was 1985. And I was 20 years old, and I had the privilege of 3 of my neighborhood friends coming to my parents and doing an intervention on me.
Oh, wow.
And so I went into treatment kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And pretty much half-assed it and didn't last too long. So
so when you went to treatment, did you go because you wanted to, or did you just go because you felt like you were forced?
I was forced. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I didn't really want to be there. So I didn't last too long on the outside after I got out, maybe 2 weeks or something like that. So that was 85, so flash to 2 years later, and I was pretty convinced I had a problem, so I really wanted to do something about it, and started going to church and singles fellowship and renewed my relationship with Christ, and it worked for a while. It did, but I didn't address the core issues. So when life got tough, I went back to what I knew.
Right.
Let me medicate that with some substances.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was involved in 12-step fellowship. We're a bunch of different people that had different things going on, and I was sober for a little over 6 years, and just put myself in a bad position. I felt like I didn't want to drink, and but I did end up drinking, and went back to the harder substances just a few years after that. A couple years after. Yeah, a couple years. Didn't take too long. So, went to a little outpatient thing and half-assed it for about 9 months and started drinking again, and that lasted till 2001. And I, drinking, I started doing the hard substances again, and so fall of 2003, I was, okay, what do I need to do? I got to do this for me and nobody else.
18 years later from that first intervention.
Yeah. I gotta do something about this, and I gotta do it for me. So, God bless, one of my roommates took me into treatment. I was a mess, and but I wanted to be there. And after I got out, I went into a fellowship that I felt like I could identify with, and it was a 12-step group, and it's like, all right, what do I need to do? Y'all tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
I've tried to do this on my own. Y'all seem to have a solution, so I did what they told me, suggested.
Wow.
And as in Scott, I have a similar upbringing. Parents that never divorced. Baseball, hot dog, apple pie, and Chevrolet. My grandfather was a Chevrolet dealer, so we had plenty of Chevrolets. Except I tried marijuana at 13, not 31, so it was and I had the college thing.
You
too.
just had the numbers off.
I did, yeah.
Or maybe I did. I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know. Dyslexia, it's a beautiful thing, believe me. Yes, so my BAC and my GPA were very much out of whack. But I digress. That was, so to me, it was, I gravitated toward drugs because I liked the way that I felt, whether it be alcohol or any other substances, but also when I found that one stimulant that I thought completed me, this made me the person that I felt the most comfortable with. And then, of course, that does turn on you. So I kept trying to find that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I held on to when I got into recovery this time was, I would fool myself and go, it wasn't so bad. Let's try to do it again, whether how many years were involved in it. So basically it was 20 minutes of fun and 3 days of hell.
Yep.
And that's what happened every time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what I did. That's how it happened. So that's one of the things that have helped me. But also I was raised Christian, became a Christian when I was 12. And so I had a concept of God, but it was more of if I got out of line, he was going to squash me with a fly swatter. One of those big Texas fly swatters.
Yeah.
So going to this fellowship and listening to what the men and women had to talk about their higher power, I developed a higher power that was more of a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And that's helped me a lot, and I did the 12 steps, and I do them every day in various ways. I do like to get up in the morning and pray first. That's another big thing.
Yeah.
I do find if I get too busy with life and I kind of forget that they didn't go as well.
The squirrels start going off in your head
They
again,
do.
don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But like Scott, I have to agree that one of the promises of the fellowship that I went to is any addict can stop using, lose that desire to use, and find a new way to live.
Definitely.
And that's been I hope I can quote that.
And it's a
That's
beautiful
been my
way of life.
Yes, that's definitely. And what I thought I was going to do and what I've ended up doing has been pretty incredible.
Awesome.
It brought me here working at Windmill.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it here.
We love you here too. So from listening to both of you guys and my own experience as well, it kind of sounds like, having a personalized experience with a God, right? Like creating a conception of your own, I guess, ability, right? It's kind of helped us all to get sober. Instead of
Absolutely.
believing in what's been kind of forced at us our whole life, it's kind of, I'm going to create this image of God and believing it myself, right? And a lot of times it's not much different than what people tell us, except that it's not a punishing God or something that's going to send us to this brimstone and fiery place if we're bad, but something that's understanding and caring and loving and does for us what we can't do for ourselves, and so
Yeah, I mean, I think some people get hung up on the whole God thing.
Right.
And I mean, yes, I have the Judeo-Christian God, but man, you don't have to.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
it's a God of your creation, what you believe your higher power is.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't believe right now,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay.
Right.
You just have to be a little willing
Right.
to believe there's something else that's
Yeah.
that's there. Just,
sure.
Just that willingness
Yeah.
goes a long way. And I mean, I promise you, and thousands of other people promise you the same thing. Your life will change just with that willingness.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if we all think that, you know, God's kind of all powerful, right? My experience is that He's always met me where I was at, right? Whatever I
Mhm.
was willing to believe or I could conceive or understand as a human, He's always been able to meet me there, you know, whether it was a Christian God or, you know, Spirit of the universe or anything like that, right? He's always been able to kind of meet me where I'm at. So it doesn't matter whatever you're willing to believe, you know, if it's a Spirit of the universe, you know, then
Yeah,
Christian
that's
God,
okay.
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think one of the really important things about any 12-step fellowship that you go to is most of the principles are, if you will honestly seek God,
Mhm.
He will show Himself to
Right.
you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's one of the tenets of the
And that's something,
Judeo-Christian belief.
that's something that we do daily.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a get up and go to church and pray Sunday
Yeah.
morning and, you know, go watch the football game,
So
and
get
that's
up and
the
pray
last
every
time
day.
you think about it, other than,
Yeah.
oh my God, they got to make this touchdown.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's I hadn't realized this before, but I found out last night that never mind, I can't say that. Forget it.
Wow.
Scratch that. Yeah, I can't talk about that. But
That's okay.
It's okay.
Well,
Anyway,
I wanna-
A famous
Um,
doctor, though, had
a
something.
famous doctor
Yeah.
summed up the 12 steps in 2 words: love and service.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did read. I read that yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well,
Yeah, I passed away the day before my sobriety day.
Yeah.
Not date, day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to congratulate you on 16 years,
Dom, I appreciate that.
and I want to say thank you for coming out and speaking with us. And
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
Carrying the message to the
Yeah.
newcomer.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Okay.
If a hard-headed, stubborn, thick-necked guy like me can eventually get it, anybody can.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
Well, guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Bright Spot Alumni. Remember, this is brought to you by our alumni group, Rehabilis Tribe, and exclusively produced by Windmill Wellness Ranch. So if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction and you need help, you can definitely go to Google, type in Windmill Wellness Ranch, and we're located up here in Canyon Lake. So you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
60 million people in the United States have a mental health diagnosis. 1 in 10 people suffers from substance abuse. Every person who has a serious mental health issue affects and infects another 4 people.
We're one of you.
We've been there.
We get it.
Are you ready for help?
Addiction does not discriminate. We will walk through the fire with you.